All right, hello, folks. Couple things that I want to talk about this week. Number one, and maybe most importantly this week, is your first test that covers the first three chapters. That is due Tuesday night. This is on the weekly agenda, but it's due Tuesday night at 11:59 p.m. Generally, the test, I don't make exceptions for that unless there's just an extreme case, reasoning why you could not get that submitted. So please get those tests in. You've got a 2-day window, so it'll open up Monday morning. I think it actually opens up Monday at 1 a.m., but it closes Tuesday night at 11:59 p.m. So make sure you get those tests in. Those are obviously a big grade, 120 points on the test. You get one attempt. Reach out if you have any questions at all about test. We obviously have the 3 MyConnect homework assignments due this week as well, and there's a media reading assignment. All the directions are posted for that assignment to be submitted before Sunday night at midnight. So everything except for your tests for this class are due on Sunday nights. The one thing that I want to spend this time talking about is the stage 1 of your project. Now, this isn't technically due until basically about 2 weeks from the time you're probably watching this, Sunday, February 14th. Let me make sure I have the right date. Yes, Sunday, February 14th at 11:59 p.m. Couple things. All the instructions posted here are posted as if you were working in a group with 2 to 3 people. That is still an option. You can work with a group of 3 people. Obviously, that's something that you'll need to coordinate on your own, but you do not obviously have to this year work with a group. You can do all of this individually. So if the wording of this project sounds like, I should be working with 2 other people, just know that's not necessarily the case. You can work by yourself. One question I've been asked a couple of times, is this first stage where I'm actually coming up with the research topic for my project? And the answer is no. Not necessarily. It is possible in this stage you formulate your research topic, and that's something that you're going to use throughout this semester, but not necessarily. Here you are just coming up with several different interesting questions that statistics can help solve. And there is a few examples, if you read through right here, that you can kind of choose from. And then there's a big appendix on page 11 that's got a lot of different examples. Obviously, you can go off script and use different examples. But I do want to caution you about that. And it's something we're going to talk more about when we get into stage 2. You want to make sure that you pick a question that has quantifiable data. So for instance, one example a student used a few years ago was off of the show Mythbusters. They did an episode where they wanted to figure out if it was possible to dodge a bullet. You may or may not have seen that episode. And basically the data they used was the further they were away from the gun, obviously more time they had to dodge that bullet. So the episode kind of went through, the more feet they were away from the gun, the more time they were allowed essentially to dodge that bullet. And that technically, falls in line with, there is data to support the question that they were raising in that episode. However, the problem with picking that as a research topic is the data is very limited. In fact, the only data you'll ever find for that project is on that Mythbusters episode. So you want to make sure you pick a project that has lots of recorded data on a professional website that you can cite when you get to your paper. So that's why it's best to pick something off of the appendix when we start to get to stage 2 and we start talking about research topics. Of course, you can always reach out to me and ask whether or not a topic that you're thinking about would be appropriate for this project. But this first week, again, this is part of the project, but in essence, when you do stage 2 could be completely unrelated to stage 1. depending on the questions that you choose this week. Please reach out if you have questions on this. We will probably talk about this a little bit more in the next week's video. But again, this week you kind of just want to start thinking about stage one of the project. It's really next week is when most of the work typically goes into that project. In fact, if this was an in-person class, I wouldn't even mention stage one until next week. But I wanted to bring it up so you got plenty of time to start thinking about that. It might be something you want to start thinking about as soon as you get this test in on before Tuesday night. All right, that's all I have for you this week. Thank you guys. Continue reaching out if you got questions, and good luck on the test.